Greetings, baseball fans, and welcome to the Fireball Review channel and my baseball wild card and World Series prediction video. Now, folks, I have not made a video on this platform since late March, okay? It was the day before the regular season commenced, and in that video, I predicted that the Atlanta Braves would meet the Seattle Mariners in the World Series this year, and they would meet and defeat the Mariners. Well, things did not go well for the Mariners. They're not even in the playoffs, but the Braves have the best record in baseball. They're still very much alive in 2023, but will I pick them in this video? Will I stick with that pick? You'll have to wait to find out. Now, full disclosure, one of the main reasons I haven't produced a video on this channel in quite some time is because I've just lost my passion this year for baseball. Being an Angels fan, there's just this constant black cloud that resides over this franchise. You know how you have these things in life that are supposed to bring you bad luck? You're not supposed to break a mirror. You're not supposed to open up an umbrella in the house. You're not supposed to kill like a black cat or have a black cat, or otherwise it'll bring you bad luck. I feel like the Angels engage in these activities on a daily basis. And basically, being a fan of them is like being kicked in the nuts every day for 162 straight days. Give or take a few days off, obviously. It is not a fun situation. Shohei Ohtani's probably going to go to the Dodgers, and I just hate that franchise with a passion. It is going to be like the worst thing ever in the history of sports if he goes there. I would rather have Satan descend from the deepest depths of hell, start his own team in like Nebraska or some rural part of Pennsylvania, and have Shohei go play with Satan and his boys, then go to the Dodgers. They are my least favorite sports team, although the Kansas City Chiefs are giving them a run for their money. I am tired of seeing Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's face on television. But negativity aside, there's been a lot of great stories in baseball this year. The Miami Marlins, I came so close to picking the Marlins to get the final wild card spot in the National League. I didn't do it way back in spring training. I'm kicking myself right now. What a great story they've been. The Texas Rangers. What a great story the Rangers have been. Bruce Bochy is already a Hall of Famer. I think after he won that second World Series with the Giants, he was a Hall of Fame manager. When he won the third one, he was like pretty much guaranteed. And if he wins a World Series with the Texas Rangers, this guy's got to go down as maybe one of the 2 or 3 greatest managers in the history of the game. Guy's done a great job there. The Red Sox and Yankees are not in the playoffs for the first time in like forever. I don't remember the last time. I think JFK was president the last time. Neither of these teams were in the postseason. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but I'm sure television executives' heads are exploding all around the country right now at the thought that neither of these teams are in the postseason. The Yankee fans are going to probably tar and feather poor Aaron Boone in Times Square because of the season the Yankees have just produced this season. But a lot of good stories. The Baby Birds, the Baltimore Orioles, they won 100 games this year. How the hell did that happen? These guys, I think these guys still have acne at this point. I think they just graduated high school last year. But nonsense aside, let's get into these picks. And again, I'm not going to do the division series or the LCS picks in this video. I'm just going to do the wild card round, this first round, the best 2 out of 3 in the American and National League. Then I'm just going to tell you who I think eventually will go to the World Series and who ultimately will win the World Series. I'm not going to go over the other 2 middle rounds yet. I'm going to do a separate video on the division series right before that commences, and then the LCS right before that series starts. But without further ado, let's start off in the American League, where the Tampa Bay Rays will be playing the Texas Rangers. This series will take place in Tampa, Florida. Not much of a home field advantage in Tampa. It can get a little loud. It is a dome. It is a closed dome. And look, I think the American League this year, ladies and gentlemen, is just wide open. I think literally any of these teams that made the playoffs have a shot at going to the World Series, which is very exciting. But I will say, I think Tampa Bay, when healthy, is the best team in the American League. I think they're a little bit better than Baltimore. Had you not had the situation with Wander Franco, had you not had some of the injuries to the pitching staff, I think this team would have won the American League East. You know, Baltimore, give them credit, they won 100 games. I actually think Tampa would have been won probably 102, 103 games had they been healthy, though. I think they're a little bit better than Texas, probably a lot better. Texas has the better offense, but I still like Tampa Bay's pitching staff a little bit better. They have a little more postseason experience. Texas has had a great year. Again, anything can happen in the best 2 out of 3 series, so don't take it personally. I mean, look, we could pit the Oakland A's, who record-wise was literally the worst team in baseball this year. We can put them up against the Braves in the best 2 out of 3 series in Atlanta, and the A's could win 2 out of 3. So this whole thing is a crapshoot, but I like Tampa Bay a little bit better in this series. I'm saying Tampa wins this series 2-0. Now, in the other American League wildcard matchup, we have the Toronto Blue Jays going to Minneapolis, Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Twins. The Twins have not won a playoff game. They have lost, actually, 18 consecutive playoff games. It is a very sad situation. Well, here's a question for you, ladies and gentlemen. What will happen first? Will the Twins win a playoff game, or will Anthony Rendon actually play a baseball game at some point in the near future? What will happen first? I'm thinking the Twins actually win a playoff game. I think the Twins will get off the schneid in this series. I think they will win one game, but I don't think they're going to win this series. I think Toronto is a little bit more complete. Pitching-wise, it's kind of a wash. They both have good pitching staffs, but I think Toronto has a little bit more talent in the offensive category. I think they go on the road, and I think they take down the Twins 2-1. Now, in the National League wildcard matchup, we have the Arizona Diamondbacks going on the road to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to take on the Milwaukee Brewers. And the key for the Diamondbacks, who have also been a great story, I didn't mention them earlier. I didn't think this team would go to the playoffs at the beginning of the season, but they've had a heck of a season. They proved me wrong. The key to the series for them, though, is you got to get Zach Gallen to win that first game of this series. I assume he's going to pitch game 1. If he does, you got to win that game. That's their only chance of winning this series, because the Milwaukee Brewers statistically have the best pitching staff of any team in the playoffs, which tells me they are a real threat in the National League, which is not as wide open as the American League. I mean, I think you have the Braves at the top of the heap, and then you have the Dodgers and the Brewers just maybe right behind them, and then everybody else is kind of in this third tier down here, where Arizona is, obviously. So I think Milwaukee wins this series. I'm going to say Arizona pulls off an upset. I'm going to say they win game 1, then Milwaukee rallies back, wins the next 2, and then they take down the Diamondbacks 2-1. Over in the other National League matchup, you have the Miami Marlins traveling north to take on the Philadelphia Phillies in the city of brotherly love in that best 2 out of 3 series. And let me tell you something. If the Marlins had Sandy Alcantara, if he was still on that team and he was healthy and he was not on the disabled list and he was ready to rock and roll for the playoffs, I think the Marlins can make a deep run in the playoffs this year. They do not have him. They're going to have their hands full with the Phillies. Everything is telling me to pick the Phillies in this series, but we know, ladies and gentlemen, we always know there's always one upset in the first round. And I'm just going to do something wild and crazy here. I'm going to say the Marlins are going to upset the Phillies in the first round. Call me crazy. Many people have. I don't blame you. I probably need to check into a mental institution for making this prediction. But I've seen a lot of Marlins games down the stretch here. I have not been watching a lot of Angel games this past month. So I've been watching a lot of other teams. And the Marlins are a fun team. They win a lot of games they have no business winning. They have Arias, who flirted with 400 for a good chunk of the season. He wound up at 359. He's a fun player. You got Jazz Chisholm on that team. DeJesus and Garrett at the top of the rotation. I think the Marlins are going to pull the upset. I think Miami wins this series 2-1.
You cannot be serious!
So, ladies and gents, this is where the rubber meets the road. I'm going to give you my World Series prediction now, and then I'm going to do a Division Series preview, an LCS preview, and then a World Series preview where I give you just the matchups and whatnot. But I'm just going to tell you right off the bat who I think, ahead of the playoffs, before the games commence tomorrow, who I think is going to represent the American and the National League in the World Series, and who is going to win the World Series ultimately. In the American League, the Astros, they have the veteran leaderships. They've been here before, but they struggled to win that division. They're clearly not as strong as they've been in past seasons. I think they're starting to get a little bit old. It happens to everybody from time to time, and I think I think they maybe lost that eye of the tiger a little bit. It's very hard to repeat in baseball. It hasn't happened since the Yankees in the late 90s, early 2000s when they got that three-peat, actually. So I don't think it's the Astros' year. I just don't see it happening. Baltimore, I just don't think they're quite ready for prime time. These guys were at their senior prom a year ago, and now they're fighting for the World Series. I think they should have added some veterans at the trade deadline, and I think they still have some holes in the starting rotation. Tampa Bay has some holes as well. They've lost some rotation pieces, but I still think they're good enough to fight through it. Wander Franco obviously is a big loss. It's a bad situation just all the way around in general. We may never see him play again. Who the hell knows? But I think Randy Arozarena will be the catalyst for Tampa Bay. This guy just has a flair for the dramatics. He steps up on the big stage like he did in the World Baseball Classic and in the playoffs in the past. He's going to lead the Rays all the way to the World Series. And who are they going to play? They're going to play the Atlanta Braves, of course. I picked the Braves back in spring training. Did you honestly think I wasn't going to ride these guys from wire to wire? The Braves remind me a lot of the Cubs back in 2016, where the Cubbies just sort of just ran through baseball like just a tidal wave from the beginning of the season all the way to the end of the season. Obviously, they went down 3-1 against Cleveland, but then rallied back and ultimately won the World Series, broke the curse of the Billy Goat. Everybody was very happy in Chicago, and I think everybody's going to be very happy in Atlanta. Atlanta, they have a lot of new guys that weren't there a couple of years ago. You know, Matt Olson wasn't on that team. Acuna was on that team, obviously, but he didn't play. He was on the injured list or disabled list or whatever the hell they're calling it these days. God forbid you say the wrong thing, you're going to get canceled here on YouTube. But nonetheless, I still think top to bottom, the Braves are the best team in baseball. I know it's sort of the kiss of death to have the best record and everybody's picking you, but this team just seems like a juggernaut. The year Acuna had this year, it's kind of got overshadowed by Shohei, but this guy is arguably the best player in all of baseball. Give him a tremendous amount of credit. Give the Braves a tremendous amount of credit. And I'm saying it right now, the Atlanta Braves will beat the Tampa Bay Rays in 6 games in the World Series. But now I want to hear from you guys. Let me know down in the comments below who emerges victorious out of this first round of the baseball playoffs, and ultimately who goes on to the World Series and wins the World Series. Let me know your opinions down below. And bonus question for the day, who is your least favorite sports team? The world needs villains, ladies and gentlemen. Netflix has made a industry out of making these crime documentaries that all of us weirdos love to watch. The villains of the world make things a little bit more spicy, and I want to know who is the ultimate villain in sports. Let me know down below, and as always, hit that dislike button if you didn't like this video. Otherwise, see you next time. Toodles.